All right, back here in Europe, a government in the making here in Germany. The country's conservatives and social democrats today reached an agreement on forming a new government, a coalition government. The party leaders presented details of that agreement at a press conference today here in Berlin. Germany's chancellor-in-waiting, Friedrich Merz, said that the coalition has a strong plan to make Germany stable, safer, and economically stronger. Talks between the conservatives and the center-left social democrats began soon after the national election here in February.
A message of confidence after weeks of intense debate.
Germany is back on track. Germany will fulfill the obligations in terms of defense, and Germany is willing to strengthen their own competitiveness. And that is not just Germany, that is Europe.
Conservatives and social democrats have presented a coalition agreement, but getting there was anything but easy.
We negotiated very thoroughly, but also very firmly. This has to do with the responsibility we want to take for our country. This responsibility is meant to help bring back economic growth.
How to boost the economy amid a recession was one of the key issues in the negotiations. The compromise now, promoting private investment, cutting taxes on middle and small incomes, and making overtime hours tax-free. Another change in policy concerns migration. The Conservatives and Social Democrats plan to make it significantly harder to obtain protection in Germany.
There will be controls at the national borders and asylum seekers will be returned back. We will launch a repatriation offensive. We will end voluntary resettlement programs, suspend family reunifications, and significantly increase the number of safe countries of origin.
But opposition leader Alice Weidel from the far-right AfD doesn't believe there will be a real policy shift.
Not a single campaign promise has been kept. The promised shift in migration policy has already been shelved again.
Before the deal can become policy, coalition partner delegates and party members of Social Democrats and Conservatives must approve it. Only then can Friedrich Merz be elected the new Chancellor of Germany.
All right, I want to get now to our political correspondent, Giulia Saudelli. She has been covering this story for us all day. Good to see you, Giulia. So I guess the message we are hearing from the incoming soon-to-be Chancellor, Mr. Merz, is that Germany will be one of the world's main sources of stability in a world that is anything but lately. Is that the correct read?
Well, that is definitely what he's hoping for. We've heard him say that Germany is back on track and that he and his government that is now going to be incoming plan to try to deliver on that. The question remains whether that is going to be the case, especially considered the big challenges that Germany has been facing and will continue to face in the next few months and even years. If we look at defense, for example, yes, the incoming chancellor, his party, and the Social Democrats have been able to secure more funding to improve Germany's defense and also its infrastructure, but still a lot of challenges remain, especially in the context of U.S. President Donald Trump pulling back support for Ukraine, but also looking at restricting the protection of the U.S. defense umbrella on Europe, and Germany wanting to take over a leadership role in making Germany and Europe more self-reliant in terms of their defense. If we look at the tariffs and we look at trade, Germany has not been doing very well economically, and Friedrich Merz would very much like to see Germany back in the lead in terms of being a strong economic power that can use also this economic power in negotiations with Donald Trump, the U.S. president, for example, but also to, again, take on a leadership role in Europe. Now, these are the plans of the incoming government. They are going to have to try to deliver on them.
Yeah, and I assume that they're breathing a sigh of relief tonight with this pause on the Trump tariffs for the next 90 days. That will certainly help any new government in the making. But what do we know about the migration policy moving forward? That was a big issue during the election here in February. What is this new government, this new coalition, what are they going to do about migration?
Yeah, and this was also one of the big campaigning issues that the conservative CDU of Friedrich Merz really pushed on during the election campaign. And we've seen this this program for the government, points to a change of direction, or what the parties hope to deliver as a change of direction. We've read in this agreement that they see the government's role in migration not only as steering or controlling migration in Germany, but has the proposition of wanting to limit migration to Germany. To do that, some of the measures it wants to push forward is an increased rejection of asylum seekers at the German borders. This is something that the agreement says will have to happen in agreement with neighboring countries to Germany. Whether this will end up being possible will also is something we're going to have to look out for. It is not necessarily easy to find agreement with Germany's neighboring countries in terms of taking back asylum seekers. Another thing they're looking at is what they're calling a return offensive. So basically increasing the number of failed asylum seekers who are returned to their countries of origin, including to countries that were so far not considered safe, like Syria or Afghanistan. And these are all measures that especially the conservatives really want to deliver on, because these were their election promises.
Okay. All right. DW's political correspondent, Giulia Saudelli, with this new German government in the making. Giulia, thank you. DW's Michaela Kufner, she was at today's press conference, and she had a question for Friedrich Merz about the U.S. and those trade tariffs.
The formation of a German government is watched very closely. We've seen over the past couple of days how much turmoil on the markets can be caused within just a few days. So from where you're standing right now, what is your message to Donald Trump?
The key message to Donald Trump is Germany is back on track. Germany will fulfill the obligations in terms of defense, and Germany is willing to strengthen their own competitiveness. And that is not just Germany, that is Europe. The European Union and Germany will be again a very strong partner within the European Union, and we will bring the European Union forward.
I want to pull in Jackson James now. He's a resident and senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund, a familiar face to our viewers here. He joins me tonight from Washington, D.C. Jack, good to see you. So we heard what Friedrich Merz was saying, and then you have to look at the timing with what happened with the Trump tariffs today. Is all this timing good for a new German government that wants to be seen as a source of stability in a very turbulent world?
Yeah, you would hope so, Brent, because, you want to see whether or not they can put their own act together between now and the 90 days ahead. And maybe that would be something that would entice Mr. Merz to go see Trump sometime between now and then, so that he has a package that he can offer in Washington, D.C. in the Oval Office.
Do you think that would be the best course of action to take? Would be Friedrich Merz becomes the new chancellor, and then he gets in an airplane and flies to Washington and to meet with Donald Trump?
Well, he wants to do that in any case. The question is, with what will he go into that office meeting with? And I think he's already said that he's not just going to speak for Germany, he's going to speak for Europe. And I think that gives an opening for him to say exactly what he just said at the press conference. We're going to do our defense duties. We're going to put our economy back on track, whatever that might mean in the meantime. But at the same time, I think he's got to go in there and say this is something that we have as a kind of a common goal to see whether or not we can make each other strong. I've been saying here, maybe he should walk in there and say, thanks, Mr. Trump, for helping us make Europe great again.
Yeah, maybe the president would like to hear that. Well, where do we go forward when we're talking about relations between the United States and particularly Germany? I mean, what state are those relations in at the moment?
Well, there are always going to be tense relationships as other things come into play, whether it's about, policies that deal with defense, how quickly Germany can put its own act together, who's going to basically be in charge of the security of Ukraine. And there'll be the same ongoing conflicts over how to deal with China and how we can begin to kind of see where the notion of a common ground for economic growth on both sides of the pond and not just there can be worked out. So I'm hoping that this is an opportunity that both sides of the pond, both in Washington, D.C. and Berlin, can take a good look and say there are more common denominators maybe than the things that divide us.
You know that the new German government has some huge tasks before it. We're talking about unprecedented military spending, for example. What's the view from where you're sitting about this new militarization of Germany? I mean, do they, one, have the people to do it? And two, can they get their hands on the equipment fast enough? I mean, how does the U.S. see that?
Well, I think it's going to be a long walk. I mean, after all, we're talking about recruitment. They've got to get way back over where they are now in terms of the amount of people in the Bundeswehr. And I think that the basic question is forming a German industrial defense basis is something that's going to take 5 to 10 years. And so in that respect, I think that we've got to figure out a way that the both sides of the Atlantic, and within NATO particularly, can come to grips on putting that capacity together. I'm hoping that that's something that is also going to be recognized on both sides, not only in the White House, but also in the Congress.
You know, Jack, I just want to ask you before we run out of time, the far-right AfD party, it's gotten a lot of attention from the Trump administration. It's gotten a lot of attention around the world, but the fact that it's enjoying so much voter support. Polls out today show that for the first time, it has more support than the Conservatives, the party that's where Friedrich Merz is coming from, the party that's forming this new German government. What's your read on this, the fact that the AfD is going from strength to strength?
Well, I think that's a little bit too soon to tell. I mean, my sense is that this particular coalition is coming together right at the beginning of an opportunity to not only announce intentions like they did today, but get forward with implementation, which is going to be the harder part of that equation. And I think that the notion that I came away with when I was over in Berlin watching the election unfold was that this coalition has to succeed to make sure that the middle, as Mr. Merz himself said, the middle of German politics can take care of the problems that lie ahead and not let those problems seep into both ends of the spectrum, but rather can stay an agenda for the middle of politics in Germany, as it has been for so many decades.
Jackson Janes with the German Marshall Fund. Jack, as always, it's good to get your insights. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Good to see you.